Hello there. The unity government does not come about, and London wants to hold new elections, as you all already know. The situation in Northern Ireland is volatile. That could benefit forces that had actually disappeared from the scene some time ago. According to an expert, the ongoing political stalemate in Northern Ireland and the dispute over Brexit rules are strengthening the militant supporters of the union with Great Britain. New life has been breathed into the loyalist paramilitary groups. That's what Aaron Edwards, author of the book UVF, said. UVF Behind the Mask. And he told this to the German press agency. There's a growing danger that terrorist groups such as the Ulster Volunteer Force, the UVF, which are estimated to still have thousands of members, will end the ceasefire that was announced years ago. Once supporters of the peace treaty in the former Civil War region, they now see themselves as losers and their future within the UK in jeopardy. And Edward says, in the last 18 months, we've seen a shift from protecting the peace process to undermining it. This does not mean that there will soon be attacks or the violence will flare up again, but the mood has changed and the UVF is slowly changing with it, he says. Most recently, the group announced that it would review the basis for the ceasefire. I talked about this in an earlier video. Edward said the militants were lumping all the problems together. Years of public austerity, leaving the EU with a dispute over Brexit rules for Northern Ireland, and the created customs border with the rest of the kingdom, and finally, the prospect of the Catholic side for the first time having a regional head of government. In Northern Ireland, Protestants who want to remain with Britain and Catholics who want reunification with the Republic of Ireland had been at odds for decades. More than 3,500 people died in the conflict. The UVF was one of the leading forces on the loyalist side. They laid down their arms in the mid-1990s. The Civil War ended 1998 with a so-called Good Friday Agreement. It provides for the strongest parties from both camps to form a government together. However, all talks about it have failed, and the British central government has now announced new elections, although I still don't know a date. Edwards warned that an ongoing political vacuum or even elections would provide context for the groups. In addition, the previous UVF leadership, which had supported the peace process, had come under pressure. If that leadership steps aside and more militant members take control, we could see an escalation to violence, he said. Possible targets are, for example, representatives or institutions of the EU member state Ireland, which the loyalists have identified as primarily responsible for their concerns. But it doesn't have to come to that. If all parties sit down again, the collective will of the people can withstand these people who want to drag Northern Ireland back into the Dark Ages. On the Catholic Republican side, paramilitary groups like the IRA terrorist organization once posed no threat to national security. That's what Edwards said. But Northern Ireland is, with the history it is like squaring a circle. Whatever will happen in the future will have tensions. Even a reunification, which would be the just thing to happen. It is still the island of Ireland, and everything there is Ireland, and that is my absolute opinion on that one. But the loyalists will not move to the rest of the UK if that happens. And we still probably will have tensions, new troubles in the case of a reunification. Unless those people come to their senses, which is unlikely, and unless someone finds a way to educate the younger people better. We have the same problem here in Germany on a totally different scale, of course, but the young people are so influenced by headlines, in many cases just from social media, that there might be a new generation in Northern Ireland that believes in the same as the older ones on the loyalist paramilitary side did. And that would be an issue for a long time then. Of course, the people that want reunification are having more and more of a majority just by birth rates in the recent years and probably also in the coming years. But both camps are there, and there is no solution. I'm sorry to say that, but there is no solution with a mindset existing that will end the whole thing without some form of violence. And I'm very sorry, but absolutely sure about this. And that is the crux of the whole matter. The European Union and the membership in the European Union of both the UK and Ireland made a lot of the issues disappear. Not, we know in Belfast the walls are still there and the separate communities and everything, but the violation, the deaths, the attacks, that ended because there was no need for borders, there was no need for checks, and nobody had the feeling to be in separate countries or whatever. And Brexit is what started and flared up everything again. So not only in the economical sense, I'm always talking about on this video, Brexit was a huge mistake and a grave mistake, but also in the case of the peace in Northern Ireland, Brexit was the biggest mistake in the last 100 years. And I'll see you in my next video. I'll be back.